because this is one of our first ones. But basically what this is going to be is what we're calling the MREA series, right? So every Friday at 1 o'clock, we're going to start with one of the models from the MREA, which I'm sure all of you have a copy of and all of you have read, correct? Can I get a thumbs up? All right. So if not, definitely grab that and get
Nancy
on it.
Nancy has hers in front of her. I love it.
I love it. I love it.
I did. Lynn said we should read half of it.
Oh, now he's got it.
Like,
Celeste has it.
I reread half the chapter.
Oh my gosh, look at them all. I'm like a proud papa right now. So
yeah, I've gotten quite a few of them myself. I haven't gotten quite halfway, but I'm pretty close.
Well, and full disclosure, and I should probably say this before it was recording, it's not a read for pleasure book. I mean, it's an operations manual. So this is something that, you want to read through to get familiar so you know how to reference it. And, if you'll see, like Lynn has hers spiral bound as well. This is one I've used for years. It's just easier to reference and everything. So
really easy to take notes in that format. I would agree.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically break down each one of the models each month. And this will apply to you wherever you are in your business. So if you're a brand new launching agent, or if you're, a year, 2 years in the business, 10 plus transactions, we want it to apply to both of you. And then at the end, or I should say in the second half, which will be at about the 1:30 mark, we're going to go into an accountability session. The first couple will probably be as a group. And then as we grow, we'll start to divide up based on where we are in our businesses. And what that is meant to do is to really hold us or keep us on track to what we need to be doing. What are the big rocks with our business, right? And the reason that we're going to start splitting the group up at that point is because if you're a launching agent who's just got into the business, you're going to have different big rocks than someone who maybe have been in the business for a while and is looking to get to 10, 15, 20 transactions. So we want to make sure that we divide it that way. Yes.
Did everyone get the attachments I sent today that had on page 3, your big rocks, your 6 big rocks? You can reference that. Okay. Sorry, Joseph.
And we will.
Y'all have that visual. He may show it later, but we sent you that today. So when he says 6 big rocks, it's not just an idea. You actually have 6 big rocks we've sent to you.
Yeah. And we will reference that a little bit. And that's what we want to do, is just keep guiding you to where the best resources are for your business and making sure we're setting you up for success. So how each month will look, and you'll see it on the calendar. We'll go through the first, second, third, fourth Friday of the month, and we'll go through the 4 models of it in order. We're going to start a little bit out of order with what I find the most important one. Most people find the most important one and probably the most needed for where we are. Before we get started, I want to read you an excerpt from the book. And if you want to reference it, it's on page 35. And this is always a good one for me to read because most of us got into the business because we're entrepreneurs, right? We got into the business because we want to build a business, we want to have freedom, and we want to make a lot of money, right? I mean, that's for the most part. There may be some ancillary reasons otherwise. So what I like about this is a quick background on the story of what I'm about to read. This is when Gary Keller was in college. And he tells this story. He said, this is when he talks about 2 life events. He said, the first one was when a Baylor professor chided a certain cavalier young student who thought he might have the answers to everything. That, of course, would be me. He said, son, you're not the first person to want to have a successful career. You're not the first person to have dreams you want to fulfill. You're not the first person to want to be the very best you can be in life. You need to realize that people have lived before you, and you might be wise to slow down for just a second and figure out what they've learned on their journey before you start your own. I listened attentively and thought I understood what he was saying, but I wouldn't really hear him for almost a decade. So I thought that was a good one, right? I think that's a good way to start of why we choose this modeling, right? Why do we model after people that have gone and are in the business before us? So that's how I wanted to start, and that's why we talk about the models, okay? Because these are proven models that were written through Gary Keller. And the reason I say through Gary Keller is that he didn't just sit down and say, hey, I've got a degree in real estate and I want to teach real estate. He sat down and interviewed the top agents in the country, and this is how they did it, okay? And so what the format will be is Vince and I will talk about these, and most weeks it'll be the 2 of us. Sometimes it'll just be one or the other. For the most part, we're going to talk through this. So, before we get started, just as a quick pop quiz, who could tell me what the 4 foundational models are out of the Red Book? And everybody's muted, so if you want to unmute yourself, you can.
I think one is the lead generation model.
That is a good one. That's the one we're going to talk about today. So that's the second one. We're good. We can piece this together. That's fine. What's the first one? Anybody want to guess the first one? It's the economic model.
But growth, isn't growth somewhere in there?
Growth is one of the plans that we put into place, but the first one is what we call the economic model, right? Those are the numbers that we have to hit based on our goals. And that's what we're going to really dive into next week. The third one, so you have your first one, which is your economic, your second one, which is your lead gen, and then the third one, which is anybody? Everyone's favorite. Budget model. Everyone's favorite, the budget model. And then the last one, anyone?
Organization.
Organizational model, exactly. Yep. So, and that's what we're going to go through. And it's not always organizational like the people. A lot of times it's the systems as well. Yes, Lynn.
Why is there one considered 1 and one considered 2 and one considered 3?
Great question. So basically, if you look in the order of progression of how it goes, so the economic model determines the number you must hit for your business, right? So when we do this, and we'll send out a reminder next week, but when you set up your economic model, you start with what's the amount of money I want to make for my business. And then you work backwards to see what activities I need to do in order to hit that number. So that's why you start with the economic model. And then the lead generation model is how am I going to go? Where am I going to do those activities? Who am I going to contact in order to hit the numbers from the economic model? Then we go into the budget model, which is how are we spending our money, right? How do we lead with revenue, make sure that we don't start just by writing checks, but once we start to really dive into the lead generation, everything with our business, where is that money being spent? And then the organizational model is how are we working on our systems and our tools? Now, success is sequential, not sequent, or I totally butchered it. They're going to be not simultaneous, right? But they're not also going to be exactly sequential. It's not going to be economic, lead gen, budget, organizational, but it is when you are setting up your business originally. It's not like you spend 3 months on the economic, 3 months on the lead gen, 3 months on the budget, and 3 months on the organizational. It's just how you start when you're building your plan.
Well, and I think you said earlier, which I was like, good job on the word. You said ancillary. A lot of people, like, I think it's important that if someone sitting here in a couple weeks on their first orientation, they might think, well, I actually got into it for this reason that has nothing to do with money. But in order to really have the right roadmap, you have to at least get something linked to money,
Correct.
because the MREA steps you through the path of backing out of that. So if your
Correct.
thing is to spend more time with my grandkids and I just hope I make money, we need to put something on paper to at least give you a roadmap that is tangible.
Right, exactly. And we talk about that too. Go ahead, Vince. I think you were about to chime in.
Yeah, I think that, and when what you just said was real powerful in the fact that money funds our purpose in life, right? Whatever that purpose in life is, it funds our big why. You hear KW talk about this concept of big why. When things get really tough, which they will, by the way, in real estate, things get hard. If we don't have a big why and our activities aren't powered by a big why, we're usually going to quit. So the whole concept of what we're talking about today, and the real reason that that Joseph and Wynn have worked so hard on creating this career development program, is it's a platform for all of us to come together when we are challenged, right? Because on Fridays at 1 o'clock, at really 1:30, I guess, that's when we're really going to say, okay, so what did we do? What's our goal? What did we do? How do we feel about that? And what has to change, right? So I think these models really lay out the plan, and then this group will really lay out the activities and the accountability around how we get there. And I'll make one more point, Joseph, around that whole concept of the models and growing on themselves. If we don't know the economic model, therefore, like how many units we have to sell and how many appointments we have to go on so that we can hit our profit, then there's no reason to determine how many people we need in our database so that we can sell that many units, which is the lead gen model. And when we have those people and we're selling those deals, if we're getting money into our business, but we don't know how to manage that money, therefore the budget model, so that we can have a minimum profit potential of 40% in our business, there's no reason to have the lead gen model and the economic model. And then lastly, the only way that we can grow bigger is if we understand the organizational model and how to leverage people and systems to get to that next level. So that's, I think, Lynn, to your original question, which I thought was an amazing question, how these models also grow on each other and why we need to start with them and put a plan in place, and then we just hold ourselves accountable moving forward.
Yep, exactly. So let's jump into the lead generation model. And I want to just start with a couple of lists. We love listing things, right? There's the laws to this, and there's the 3 L's, and there's these, and there's that, and there's all kinds of numbers, right? And so for the lead generation model, which again is jumping a little ahead, but the reason we started with this is because the lead generation model really comes down to one thing. What do you think that one thing is? I'm looking for one word.
Time block.
That is a good thing. But when it comes to the lead generation model, what do you think the one main part of your lead generation model is going to be?
Consistency?
Yeah, it's a good part, right? The big part, the main part is going to be your
Leads.
database.
Oh, data.
It's going to be your database, right? It's absolutely your database. So your lead generation model is basically broken down this way. We call it the 4 laws of lead generation. And you can just jot these down. All of this information right out of the book, right? But just if you, so reference it, but it's sometimes better to hear it and see it. So there's 4 laws to the lead generation. Number 1 is to build a database. All right, so that's the, I know you can't read it. It's just a reference, so you can see it writing out, because I'm going to draw something bigger in a second. All right, so number 1 is build the database. Number 2 is to then feed it every day. So build it and then feed it every day. And then number 3 is to communicate with it. And I'm going to write under here systematically. Okay, so you build it, you feed it every day, you communicate with it systematically, and then what's the last one? Anybody remember what the last one is?
Service all the leads.
Service all the leads, right? You want to service all the leads. Okay. This is how your business in real estate is going to run, regardless of from where you're going to get your business. It doesn't matter if you're going, you can look at page, what's the marketing page, the lead generation page, Vince?
Page
With all the options?
133
has
138 has all the options. 133 is the start of the lead gen model.
Right. So 138 has all of the different ways. There are a lot of different ways to lead generate, right? And it's all based on doing this with whatever way you choose. So if I'm going to only do internet leads, great. Build a database of internet leads, feed it with leads every day, communicate with them every day, and then service the leads that come. I'm only going to do my database of people I know locally. Great. Build that database of people you know locally, feed it with people you know locally, communicate it with people you know locally, and then service all the leads. It's exactly the same regardless of how you do your business. Now, to look at it visually, this is your database. So you built it, you put people in it every day, service the leads, or excuse me, communicate with it, because you're looking for the leads that are in here. And as you get closer to the center of the database, the frequency or concentration of the leads is greater. Why is that? Why is there more opportunity for leads as you get closer to the center in your database versus the people on the outside?
Because you have a
Don't
better
overthink it.
relationship with them. You're
100%.
they know
Trust.
you. You don't just know them. They know you do real estate, hopefully by this point.
Right, 100%. So what is the number 1 key to building a relationship? What is the strongest factor in building a relationship?
Consistency,
With what?
staying in touch.
Communication.
Communication.
Right, communication.
Great job.
Right, so you're putting people in here, you're communicating with them. Now, and then you're servicing the leads. When we say servicing the leads, what does that mean?
Sending to them items of value, or if it's not items of value yet, notes, drop-bys, that kind of thing.
That's for your communication, but when it refers to servicing the leads, what specific term am I looking for on service the leads?
Customer service.
Nope, that's part of your job.
Smart plans,
That could be it, but what is a smart plan doing?
touching,
Sounds like schmallow up.
follow up.
Follow up, right? Now, the reason we separate it is because it's different. Your communicating systematically is not the same thing as your follow-up. Your communicating systematically is building relationships with everyone you know. So when you get the leads, you follow up with them and I'm just going to write on a pipeline, right? You create a pipeline to follow up with the leads themselves. And the reason I draw it separately is because we throw everyone in this giant like thing here, and then we just treat them all the same. So I'm calling through and I speak to Lynn, and Lynn says, yeah, I have been looking to buy or sell. I'm like, great. And then I just leave her in this. No, I need to have a follow-up for leads. So I have communication to build the relationship and trust, and then a follow-up where I'm servicing the leads. Customer service, absolutely have to do that, but that's part of your job. That's part of the building your business, right? So this is what we're going to focus on is where are you with your database, right? Because until you do any of this, nothing else matters, right? So the first part would be in building your business or building your database, where would you rate yourself right now? Have you done it, first of all? And this is a judgment-free zone. Because to tell me, if you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm in rough shape, there's someone else in here that's worse.
I'm brand new, so.
Right. So the beautiful part is to build your database.
We're not brand new. We're not brand new, and we've gotten super slack on building our database. We are relying a lot on the existing one, and have gotten well. And the world has restricted us a little bit. So all in all, this year is a year of database building bust. I feel like.
So with building your database, here's the first thing you need to do, and this could possibly some of y'all's action item for the week is putting it all in one place. Your database is kind of built for you, right? I mean, and it really, for the most part, it is.
What do you mean it's built for you?
Command.
Oh, you got
to
have the system.
And I think also, if we think about it, how many people have maybe a CRM somewhere or an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, their phone, right? And the contacts in their phone, things are their Facebook profile and all the individuals that they're friends with. We have to compile all that into one place, and the easy space to do that is into Command.
Right. And it's not perfect, but I can promise you, go find me one that is. Right. And by the way, if you're building it, if you're not doing anything with a database right now, and you want to build it correctly, I actually think your best advantage is Command, because you can only build it simply. You can't overcomplicate it. Well, you can. I can overcomplicate anything, but you, for the most part, you can't overcomplicate it. So you build it, put everybody into your database, and then you're going to come up with your plan as whether or not you're going to feed it and how much you're going to have to feed it. So right now, you could type it in the chat or give an answer. How many people would you say are in your local database? Not physically. How many people do you know locally that you would be comfortable reaching out to on a regular basis to build more of a business relationship to get referrals?
Joseph, can I make a quick point there? It doesn't just necessarily have to be locally. I think
it doesn't.
Because we can like, I'm looking at Nancy, you're from Philly, from the Philly area. That's important, right? Because COVID has proven one thing, this idea of connectivity. And if we continue to understand that, hey, I can procure referrals from my people up in Pennsylvania, agents, the other clients, it doesn't matter who it is, consumers, right? They're a part of my database. I'm just going to sort them and tag them as such. So I would say, who is it that I know? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And they don't have to be local. And as we start to grow our lead generation plans, what I found is you want to make sure, like Vince said, you have them categorized in a way, because the plans are going to be different.
Yes,
right.
100%.
You're not going to treat the non-local people the same way that you would. So
if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody.
Correct. 100%. Right. So I got everybody. I got 30, 20, 300, 70 to 100. Okay. So here's the good news. You all have a place to start, right? So you have, and I'm just going to throw 75 in here as kind of the middle ground one. So if you have 75 people in your database, how many people should you grow it to? Some of you are like, I have no idea, right?
Isn't that wrapped into how much money you want to make?
Absolutely.
The economic model will tell us, right?
That there's not an answer. If some of y'all don't know yet, well, I want to make 50 grand this year or whatever, then you may not know that answer. So there's not one number. There is a number tied to your economic model.
Correct. And that's the importance of this being a series, by the way, because we're going to get you started this week on the concept of your database. And then when you come back next week, with your net income number, how much money you want to make, then we can back it in to say, how many people do I need in my database? And the following week, we're going to revisit this and we're going to come up with more of a plan to help you do that. Right? Because, and I'm just going to give examples because conceptually, I want you to get started, because what I can promise you is everyone in here needs to grow their database. Everyone, right? Whether you're brand new in the business or you're, me and Lynn have been in the business for a while, right? So we all need to put people in our database. So the next thing you want to do, and I do want to get a little bit in the details on this one, is as you start to build this database, keep it simple, right? Where there's 3 different levels you want to look at your real estate database, right? The first one is the essential level. The essential level is the basic information of people, their contact information, how to communicate with them, and what's the best way to communicate with them, right?
All right,
That's how you.
Let me ask on that, because I would like to unpack this, because I sometimes still get challenged with this. Because, for instance, so 12 years ago, I went from a commercial real estate company to residential. So at that time, 12 years ago, what you did is you put a letter in the mail. After calling your database, you put a letter in the mail, and you called your database, say, can I get your mailing address? You call them, and then the letter itself, this was the plan, the letter itself said, and when I get my cards, you'll be getting another, you'll get getting my card from me. And sometimes you'd go by their house. Okay. What message is it now? I don't know that I would know what to say, because no one mails like they used to. And, and maybe I should know this answer, but I don't.
So, and that gets into the lead generation, like topics and classes that we'll mastermind on that. And we may have some time to mastermind on the accountability side, but that's going to be what you decide once you've created this. That gets to what you're communicating systematically.
So the
Right, 'cause the
message is based on once you've identified your database.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The message is pretty much the same. I'm in business, trust me. But you can't say it that way, right? You have to be more, you can't, like, it's like when Vince comes in and says, trust me, it's creepy, right? You have to actually earn the trust over time. So what you want to do is you want to look at setting your database up, because what do we say the number one thing was to build a relationship?
Communication.
Right? So can we all agree that the most important thing we need to know about everyone in our database is how to communicate with them, correct? Okay, so in my opinion,
Joseph, can I make a quick point to that real quick? I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
At Family Reunion, they made a comment. They said, when we ask those individuals that come into our world how they want to be and how they prefer to be communicated with, we actually receive less fake numbers, and our conversion on those leads, so to speak, increases at a massive level. Because, and you can probably speak to this, Joseph, it goes to this idea of trust. I care about you. Can you help me? And can I trust you?
Absolutely. And that's part of what we'll do is we set this up, is we'll start to say, okay, as part of our communication plan, some of those first steps may be exactly that. Hey, Vince, I'd really like to, provide information if you'd want. What's the best way to communicate with you? Right. And just asking that question will help with that. Okay. So let's go back really quickly, because what I want you guys to focus on is, what is regardless of where you are in your business, what does your database look like as far as how the people are divided up? And in my opinion, to start, if you haven't done anything, there are only 3 types of people in your database. Only 3. What are they?
Buyer leads, seller leads, and there's one more.
Casey's about to knock it out of the park.
I've heard you say this several times. Mets.
Stella.
Is it Mets?
Mets.
Referrals.
Yes.
Oh,
Mets.
Stella.
Okay. Right. And don't stay with me. Stay with me. The simplicity of this has lost a lot of you. You're like, nope. I'm here to make it super complicated. So was I for many, many years, which is why we struggle with our database. You need 3 to start. Your Mets, which is everyone that you know that is not currently a buyer lead or a seller lead, because that's the only 3 different communications you need. You need to be able to communicate with a lead right over here, buyer or seller. And then you need to be able to communicate with the people that you know so that you will then get the opportunity to work with them should they become a buyer lead or seller lead, or build the trust so when they refer it to you. So as you put people into your database, you can have as many tags as you want. Nancy's going to have tags for people back in Philly, right? People are going to have tags for people that are out of the area. We have tags for our vendors. We have tags for past clients. We have all this. But the 3 non-negotiables for people when they go in your database should be buyer leads, seller leads, and METs. Because your METs are going to get your standard 36 to convert, which we'll go into more detail in the training side. I just want you guys to get set up on your database and lead generation model now. Right. So as you create that, those are the 3 you should start, because then at any time right now, Lynn and I at any time can go look at our database and say, hey, where are we on our buyer lead pipeline? And in 3 clicks, she could pull up buyer leads and has everyone there and can look them all up and be perfectly fine to communicate with them. Same with our METs, same with our seller leads. Now, our challenge, we have those groups. Our challenge is we need to grow all of those groups simultaneously. And that's all of our challenges. Okay. So I would say to start, just start with those 3. I love the fact that we can do custom tags and there's 1,000 different tags. And that's also where it could be a really big challenge because you'll get overwhelmed. Okay. So our goal then is to start with that essential database. What are the 3 types of people, their name, their contact information, how to communicate with them, right? In order to have at will communication with them. So they'll actually pick up the phone when you call, right? So this in a nutshell is your lead generation model. So here's what we'll do. Vince, do you want to add anything to this? Vince or Lynn, did you want to add anything to kind of starting on this lead gen model?
Good.
I think Vince may have frozen. Oh, he's there.
I thought he's thinking really hard.
Yeah,
Might
he's,
have got
yeah.
on the plane.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
he might
good.
have, and it just froze. Okay, so here's what this will look like as we segue into the accountability side of things. Is based on where you are right now, what I want to spend the next 10, 15 minutes doing is identifying each one of you, right? Identify what your big rocks, 3 at the most, are for the next week between now and next Friday.
Wait a minute. Are we moving into productivity warriors now?
Yep.
Okay. So that would be the thing I would add is for everyone to remember. So we made kind of a big, we've made it clear. You have the first half hour of really good training, good conversation. Okay. Now we're moving into the hard and fast accountability. Today is going to be a little bit different because we're setting the numbers or the goals or the statements. What we'll do before we wrap up is say, okay, so next Friday, you can expect us to follow up in this manner from today, but we'll do that at the end. But now we're moving into productivity warriors. So I'll write down.
Yep. So before we go into that, questions about the lead generation model or your database, fire away. Mics are hot.
I'll be honest, I'm still trying to figure all this out. I'm still
Right.
working on that. In fact, obviously the biggest thing I have to work on is getting childcare so that I can have time to do this thing, which I'm working on. My wife and I are doing this weekend.
Okay.
That's why.
And one of the things that we will talk about in the organizational model is how you create systems. And one of those systems is a time blocking system, right? And how we can work on that. Okay. What else? Anything else on database? Lauren?
Yeah, I just am curious what the biggest benefit is for separating them between buyer and seller leads. Like a lot of people are both, like they'll sell if I can find them a new house kind of thing. So I guess just wrapping my brain around that.
Great question. The only reason that we have them separated is because our follow-up plan for buyers has different materials than our follow-up plan for sellers, right? They're still on the same pipeline and they're categorized on the pipeline. And we do have a lot of them, like right now, we have a lot of them that are both buyer and seller leads. And quite honestly, depending on their life stage, if they can't buy without selling, then they're a seller lead. If they don't want to sell without finding a place, then they become a buyer lead.
Okay.
Prioritize that.
You can be transparent about that. Where literally you can say, you fall in 2 categories, Mr. Smith. So you're going to be getting, I'm going to put one hat on for a seller agent for you and one hat on for a buyer agent for you, and start selling your value as both. If they're on the fence a little bit, they get both materials, and then that's a double whammy of value.
Okay. So you could potentially put somebody in both lists then.
You could 100%. Yep.
I would clarify
Absolutely.
and communicate with them. They're going to, though, because again, back to Vince was saying, make sure they want that much, but that's just a series of touches to clarify. It's not a bad touch.
Yeah.
And this is where it
Okay.
goes, and I've seen and seen your hand, Celeste and Fletcher. I see you guys. So, but this is where you also, it's good. There's 90% of the systems that you create are systematized. They do the same every time, and then you have about 10% customizing it. And that 10% customizing, Lauren, could be, hey, Lauren, I know we're looking at doing both right now, but because it seems as though the buyer side is where you're spending more time, that's the information we're to focus on now, if that's okay with you. If not, now, if you want both, I'll give you both, but I don't want to overwhelm. So that's where you kind of bring in the organic side of it, right?
Well, I love
Celeste.
what you're saying, Joseph, in this, you have to personalize it, right? You're going to prioritize for them. If they're looking to become a buyer, well, and they already have a house, well, then they're going to receive material based on selling the house first, right? So I think that's a really important piece to the puzzle. If we're talking to everybody, we're talking to nobody. So we have to prioritize for them.
Yeah.
And personalize the experience, because technology in general, Joseph, you're talking about this idea of systemization, right? The whole idea of technology and systemization is to make it easier, make us smarter, but also make us more human. So if we're not personalizing that experience, it's not going to feel human to them, and we're not going to be able to connect and draw them closer. So Lauren, to answer your question, it's a great question. In my opinion, we have to make sure that we're prioritizing that communication, sell first, then buy, or buy, then we're right. So we're just communicating with them on different content, but it's the same plans.
Yes, exactly. Celeste, did you have a question?
I do. So one question, one comment. Question, do you put unmet do you put a lot of value into that group or tag, just like kind of to convert them? Me specifically, I'm really focusing on my neighborhood and meeting folks. And so I have a huge sector of unmet.
Right. So great question. And thank you for bringing that up, because what it is you have your METs that are your database, right? You're the people that you know, and then you have your buyer leads and your seller leads over here. In a perfect world, we have enough people in our database to hit our number over here, right? But we don't, right? So we then go to our haven't met group to go bring people in here. And that's what, with you, your lead generation plan will be a little bit different, and where yours is going to be targeted to your neighborhood, whereas mine may be targeted to go building vendors to bring into my vendor directory, right? Or Casey's may be targeted through, a girls group that she's part of, or networking group that she's part of. But you do have your haven't met group. 9 times out of 10, though, once you've made an initial contact, you know them, right? And if you're having communication with them, they come in as a met, they just may still be out here on the outside of your database, and you're just working over time to build that relationship.
Okay.
Great
That
question.
is a comment about database. When I first came over to Keller Williams, I had my MailChimp, I had, like list of emails and things that I had bought. I had just a bunch of randomness, and I had like 1,000 people in my database. It was super overwhelming, and I didn't know any of them, and they really weren't quality. Like it was a lot of noise and a lot of like just kind of ugh. So I went through and broke it into 3 letters a day of like cleaning up and like tagging and figuring it out and making it a bite-sized piece. I went from like 400 or from like 1,000 people in my command database to like 400. But I feel a lot better about that. Like, 100%. So that really helped me kind of like just take a step back, because at first I was so gung ho. I'm like, I'm going to touch all of you 1,000 people. And then I like went into like a really weird place about it. So if I can offer anything, it really helped me a lot.
And that's awesome. And Stella has a similar question, and that's a great thing to do. Understand when I say only having 3 people in your database, that could be with whom you're communicating. So you could have all 2,000 people in command, but then you really have 400 people in your METs, right? Because that's who you're going to communicate. Now, my hesitation on that is then you have 1,600 people out there that aren't tagged that you may never follow up with. Honestly, sometimes it's a matter, and we've had to do this exercise a couple times in our businesses. It's a matter of printing them out and just going through and checkboxing the ones right away that right? Yes, and you start with them. And you then clear that list off, and then you go back and say, okay, let's do a little research and how you know them. And it also, by the way, going back to that essential database versus kind of your, it goes essential, effective, and then exceptional, right? Well, in your essential, the main thing is can you control the communication with them, right? And if you could control the communication with them, meaning you, not just an email, or even if it is just an email, that's not terrible. But as long as you can control communication, then I would have them in your Met group.
Here's what I would do, Stella. I've done this a few times. I would not export and start over, possibly. That's not a terrible idea, but what I would do, sometimes I've done, is send a blast email to everyone, say if it's like the start of a year or the start of a quarter or the end of the summer. And then you'll get, auto not correct email. And then do what Celeste was saying. I think it was Celeste who was saying, just start with the A's and the B's. And then when you're done with the A's and B's, you're done for the day, right? Unless you have a ton of A's and B's, then just do A's. But like, you could just go through the alphabet and that could be your task. But sometimes I just kick off a sorry you haven't heard from me, or is everybody surviving, from whatever, from COVID or whatever. And then back into it with alphabet, because at the end of the day, that's a touch, and it's a good way to start a touch.
Yep.
I will say, for anybody that technology, yay. I did create a smart plan in Command that sent a text that said, hey, haven't heard from you in a while. It's the beginning of the year. And I did it in bulk chunks, like just wanted to confirm your email address and your, address. Cause I feel like I have everybody's addresses wrong. But my problem is it's like 2,200 people. And I set them up in that DT D2 to try and do it that way. And I lose steam because it's so, and it's the most important thing. Your database is the most important thing. So I shouldn't lose steam on it. I should focus on it, but I don't get anywhere with some of them. And so then, I don't know, it's really about motivation, right? I need to be better motivated.
Right. Okay, so a couple things I want to do on that, and then Fletcher, I still know that you had a question. I'm gonna come to you. I run out of steam.
Progress, not perfection.
100%. I'm hesitating going through this big exercise. It's a 50-to-1 ratio. Just trust me on the numbers. I'm not gonna bore you how you get there. It's a 50-to-1 ratio of people that you speak to that you'll actually get an appointment for real estate. It just is. Don't pass out. It is. It doesn't matter.
Out of not Mets.
Out of Mets. Like if you're out of anybody, it's across the board, right? It's just out of general. Now you can have better days if you're calling your Mets, and you can have worse days if you're calling your haven't Mets. Here's the point. You're going to go many days where you're going to be communicating with your database and people in real estate, and you're not going to get an appointment. And that's not a bad thing. That's the reality of being in the business, particularly for all of us that are on here, because we're individual agents, at most a small team. So our goals are not of such where we have to get an appointment every single day. So two things to prevent happening with what happens with Stella: chunk it down, like Lynn said, right? Don't try to overdo. Don't go do 4 hours a day, especially if you're doing 0 right now, because you won't do it, right? And then know that you won't get anywhere. There'll be a couple. I mean, most of you, when we do your economic model next week, you'll learn you only need 1 or 2 appointments a week to hit your goal. But you have to lead generate every day to get those 1 or 2 appointments. Okay, so don't let that discourage you if you don't get it. Okay, so I want to keep the flow moving. Fletcher, I know you had a question.
Yeah, I probably missed this at the beginning. I couldn't find the link for the class, but as far as the database is concerned, the 3 categories, which one of those categories do I put people I know in general, family, friends, or do I put those in those categories?
Mets.
Yeah, there'll be a Met. There'll be people you know.
Sellers and Mets.
Yep.
Okay, Mets.
And
yeah,
like,
those are people that
what's the acronym for Mets? What is that? I mean,
people that you've met. It's not an acronym.
Just people like, okay, just Met. I got you.
Yeah. It's one of the few things in Keller Williams that's actually not an acronym. It's actually a word. So.
Fletcher, what he was saying is you're going to have 3 people who are actively going to buy pretty soon, actively going to sell pretty soon, and then Mets. Everyone else. Everyone
else is Mets.
So there's your family and friends or whatever. Listen, I'm going to add this to Stella and everyone to encourage y'all. I completely believe in this law that has happened over and over and over and over again, that when I don't know where to begin and I just like start doing something, y'all, let's say I call 10 people a day, which is a small number, but I'm not a huge machine. Let's say I call 10 people a day for 3 days in a row. I swear to you, on the 4th day, 3 people call me. I never called, but it was something like my activity stirred up something. And I always say to Joseph, I say, I'm not superstitious, nor do I believe in crystals or anything, but nonetheless, literally when I start making phone calls, something starts happening in my real estate book of business. So just get started and then sit there and wait for it to happen, because that's the fun part.
Yeah,
Activity breeds activity.
100%.
I could not agree more, Lynn, with what you just said. When we're doing the activities in our 20%, AKA just talking to people about real estate, things will happen. Maybe not from the individuals that we were talking to, but all of a sudden our phone rings because our friend gave us a call and said they want to list their house. It's the craziest thing. When we're doing the right things, things happen. Activity breeds activity. It goes back to that idea of progress, not perfection. We just have to do something. And I love what you just said, Lynn. That's all. You're 100% spot on.
Oh.
So let's move into productivity warriors.
Yeah. So let's jump into this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the accountability cycle at this point. And normally we would say, okay, how'd you do this week? But based on what we've talked about, what I'd like for everyone to do is identify no more than 3 main rocks that you want to accomplish between now and next week. Okay. No more than 3. And write them down. We're going to ask you to share them. There's no right or wrong answer on this, except they have to be a balance between working on your business and in your business. And what I mean by that is you can't focus only on creating a beautiful open house flyer, making sure my database is pretty, and getting my business cards. Those can't be them, right? There has to be hold on one second. So there has to be a balance between setting up your business, the things that you will need when you get business, and then the activities of getting business, i.e. lead gen, right? And that can consist of a couple different things: an open house you're going to hold, contacts you're going to make, or a networking group or something you're going to go to. Okay, so be thinking about the 3 things.
So to clarify, Joseph, we wrote this down earlier. In the business, like working in the business, that's behind the scenes on your resources to conduct it. On your business are the activities that are going to grow your database, convert your leads, and close transactions. So we got plenty of time, but take a couple minutes to jot down what your 3 are going to be and then share them. And then here's the deal. Well, go ahead and do them. I'll say this before we'll give you 2 minutes. So at 1:48, we'll get you all to kind of be ready to share them. At least my phone said, 1:48.
Vince, I know you're a little bit on a time schedule. Any parting words of wisdom?
I think Wynn hit the nail on the head. I mean, it is about activities. I was at Morgan Stanley for 4 years prior to coming into real estate. And I used to do things like count my no's, right? So I counted the no's that I got from the standpoint of lead generation, so that, because it worked for me. I knew that if I got 35 no's, I'd get a yes. So I might be at 40 no's. I knew a yes was right around the corner. And that for me worked really well, because, and I'm not just saying this about cold calling or door knocking, whatever it is. For me, it was a psychological game. It was about, how do I keep on going? How do I not quit? How do I keep on doing the activities to drive more activity? So if I had a parting word, I would say, figure out a way that, from a mindset standpoint, that keeps you consistent in the simple things. Because I'll be honest, the lead generation gets terribly boring. Monotony. Me and Joseph always talk about it. Monotony is what makes us quit at times, boredom, right? But consistency is what creates success. So figure out a way that you're able to just stay consistent with the activities that are going to drive you to more activity. So I have to jump on a flight, and I appreciate it, Joseph. I'm so sorry I have to jump.
Travel safely.
It's good to see everybody.
Have fun in Jersey if that's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have fun making a snowman or something. It'll be great.
All right, so let's jump into.
Thank you, Vince.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, so let's go down and let's just go through and share what it is you're going to work on. And I'll just go. Who wants to start, and then I'll go from there. All right, Ed,
I'll
go
start
ahead.
since I was late.
All right, Fletcher, go ahead.
Let me know if I'm in the right area. I'm gonna do send some notes, more notes.
Okay.
As far as contacts, definitely add more contacts in my database, make some more phone calls, and catch up on my plans for everybody that's past due, and I have several.
Okay, so a
In
couple
my,
things to think about on that between now and when we hang up in 12 minutes is the only thing I would say, just for consistency, is quantify how many notes and how many contacts, right?
Okay.
And I'm not attached to what that number is, right? Aim however you feel, because we're starting early in this, right? If you aim low and you crush it, then you can aim higher. If you aim high and you miss it, we'll adjust, right? So just you don't have to do it right now, but before we go, just make sure you quantify that. All right, who wants to go next? Ed.
My first thing in the agenda is obviously time management. One of those is daycare. My wife and I are working on that this weekend and probably early into next week. I got to learn to adapt my management skills that I know into this business, because I'm pretty good at time management, but obviously this is a whole different business. I got to learn to adapt that. And then I just got access to the technology last night, so I have to block off some time in the next day, tomorrow morning, to start with, to learn that actual technology,
Okay.
so that I know how to generate leads.
Okay.
Because if I
So
can't,
yeah. So the only thing, and I'll give you one quick assignment to do in the next 11 minutes is, maybe because you're new with getting into your database, maybe give yourself an activity of how many people you're going to put into command between now and next week. You don't have to answer that right now, but in the next 11 minutes, how many people based on what you know so far? And again, I'm not too super attached on what that number is, just that you have a number, so we have a measurable for you. So be thinking about that, but you don't have to answer me right now.
Okay.
Lauren.
Okay, so two of my big lead gen things are agent referrals from outside of Charleston, and social media, because that's where the majority of my business has always come from. So number one, I have talking to actually connecting with 10 agents next week.
Love it.
To be potential referral partners. 2 live videos and social media posts every day.
Okay.
So I've gotten a lot out of those. And then the third one is to set up 3 different smart plans and connect. So I think I have all of my contacts in there, but I have one smart plan that I was super not happy with. So I want to get 3 buyers, sellers, and Mets into command.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Who would like to go next?
So, I'm sorry I was late. I was on a call. Okay, so Lauren and I have sort of similar ones, and I actually started my social media one this week. I'm doing 2, and I announced it on my social media, so now I have to do it. A Facebook Live on Tuesdays and a Facebook Live on Thursdays. And then I'm trying to keep my social media scheduled a month in advance. So that's one of mine that I'm doing. I'm also, based off of this conversation, I would like to take 500, I feel like that's an easy chunk, and go through my database and start grouping people into METs, buyer lead, seller lead. I think that's very important for me because my database has weird tags like Camp Mac.
500 per day or 500 per week or what?
500 next week.
500 a week.
No, yeah, for next week I'm gonna do. Are we doing it for what we're doing next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to have 500 done by the time I talk to y'all next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then one of my other big rocks is to do 5 open houses a month. So I'm going to try to have one done scheduled for next weekend.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Who would like to go next? All right. Anisha.
All right. I'm going to be working hard on accomplishing my daily 10-4s.
Okay. Love it.
as well as growing my database and learning my scripts.
Okay. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. The Daily 4 knocks out too. And if you're not sure what she's talking about on that, she's getting that from Ignite. If you haven't been through Ignite, we'll go through the big rocks, but it's starting March 8th. All right, who would like to go next? All right, go ahead, Celeste.
So for this next week, I would like to focus. I'm just now starting on the, you guys can't see it. I have it pinned here. Doing the database.
Okay.
So, you know, the first one on that is A, W, and N. So,
Okay.
you know, touching base with those people and starting to really systematize that. I'd like to get my buyer presentation together, and
Okay.
I have it in like 100 pieces, but to get something kind of good. And then I recently sent out a number of handwritten cards with $5 Starbucks gift cards in them, just like, hey, we can't get together because of COVID, but have a cup of coffee on me and let me know if I can ever help you with anything. I plan to follow up with those folks just to be like, hey,
Okay.
did you get that? And, you know, and I kind of need some help in this of like how to take people that are not in any way in my real estate realm and not sound like sales pitchy and saying, do you have any real estate goals I can help you with this year? And so I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay. So we'll table that, but we'll come up with a time to brainstorm on that one. But yeah, that's a good one. All right. Who else? We got Nancy, Maui, Jenna, and Casey left. Go ahead, Nancy.
Well, since it's difficult for me because I'm in Pennsylvania in the snow, I did meet when I was there in November. There were a couple people that I did speak with. Met one at the post office that's looking for a house coming up soon. So I am going to put my couple of contacts in Charleston in my command.
Okay.
I'll also develop a letter to send to my contacts here so that they know that I'm now licensed down there. And I actually got a referral coming up from an agent in my office. And I'm just going to keep reading this, and that's going to be my third one.
Awesome.
So if you have any other recommendations, I'm open.
All right. Awesome. We will work on that too as we brainstorm different lead generation techniques and those sorts of things. Casey.
Okay, so I loved what Lynn talked about, printing her database off and just kind of going through. And I guess for me, because I have so many in my database as well, that I get a little bit overwhelmed with the number. And then sometimes I tend to bury my head in the sand and just give up. Not give up, but just it's overwhelming.
Oh,
so kind of
yeah,
going through the ones, that I feel comfortable connecting with or calling or sending a note to. So I'm gonna print my database and go through that this week. I definitely think I can go through and kind of, sorry, that's my little one in the background. So see, you guys are not the only one with the little one at home. Okay. And then open houses. I have 2 scheduled this weekend that I am excited about doing. Just a minute, okay? Yes, I'm sorry, y'all. And then the last one is to door knock for a buyer. I'm trying to do that consistently each week because I have a buyer who wants to be in a certain area. So
love it. Awesome. All right, Jenna.
All right, I want to follow up. I'm in a neighborhood group that I need to follow up those contacts because I know of a house that's coming on the market that is not listed yet. So that's number 1 because it'll be coming on the market at the end of the week. I also got invited to be on a realtor panel for a downsizing seminar at a retirement community. Has anyone ever done that? I would love some insight. So I got to figure out what I need to do for that. So that's going to be prep for that. And database wise, I need to do the recategorizing met buyer sellers. Those are my 3.
Say hey to Chris.
Yes.
All right. Quick question. Is that everybody?
No, Maui. We still got Maui.
Sorry.
So my 3 is order some business cards because I ran out.
And there is a volunteering event at the church tomorrow. So when you said network, that kind of sparked my mind, like, oh, I can go to that.
Awesome.
So I do want to do that and enter like all my contacts that I have scattered everywhere, because I have like I start to put everything in my MacBook and my phone and write them down. So I'm gonna gather those contacts and put them in Command and start using Command more.
Okay.
Okay, is that everyone now?
Yes.
Okay, so a couple things. This is the first week of doing this, and so it's not going to be exactly what we do every week, but for the purpose of us being the most helpful to y'all with this as we enroll, I want you to email those to me, because I want to, here's the thing, it's probably going to be hard for me or any of us, because whenever we start doing mentors or separating in terms of transactions, you're going to be your own boss. I'm not going to write everything down and be your scribe. So I started to do that, but then I realized the easiest thing is for y'all to email to me by Monday, those 3 things. My email is in that. That will probably be the way we do it, because once you put it in writing, I know then I can then go down it quickly next week to say, all right, Casey, what did you do this? Other things I'm noticing that I want to ask, I want to challenge y'all to unpack some of your statements. For instance, Casey, you wrote door knock for a buyer. I would drill down on that and say, get one phone number and name of someone who's a buyer, but door knocking is the activity, but your goal might be, can I maybe get one phone number, one name?
But well, to clarify on that was door knocking for a buyer she has. So going around and door knocking to find potential listings. Yeah.
Okay. But you heard what I was saying. Like if you have a general statement, like for instance, Maui, you said you want to network. I would say, find a number at the end of my networking next week or whenever that is. I want to have 2 new people, 5 new people, 8 new people, however many people you think are going to be at the networking. Jenna, prep for realtor panel, I would say something like, I then have a unique value proposition put together of why I'm good with downsizing. So there's an activity and then there's a, how do I plus my business? So I'll go over all of what I might do is when y'all email me yours, I'll give you individual thoughts to help drill you down and you'll all get a response from me. But I want you to be thinking about that. How can you quantify these statements to better have a tangible next Friday?
Yep. Great point. Okay. So a couple of things. Are you right away, and we're going to run a couple minutes over with your permission. If you have to go, you won't hurt my feelings, but right away, is there anything that you can think of right now that would get in the way of you hitting these 3 objectives? Right? Just jot it down. We won't go around and have everyone share. But is there anything coming up this week that will help you get in the way? And Stella, that's an answer, is me, right? And then next to that, how can you overcome that? And that can either be an accountability, like time blocking, or it can be a training, right? So I'll just use as an example, we'll just use Casey's example, right? I am going to door knock for a buyer. What's going to keep me from doing it is I'm not comfortable what to say. Okay, so between now and when you're going to do it, how can you go get the resource to learn that script, right? So that would be her solution to that you just write down. And then second thing I want to say before I jump to show the big rocks, just as a reminder, and we can get out of here. Come next week. This is a consistent thing. Come next week, even if you didn't hit your objectives. This is not a shaming session. I want to be very clear about accountability. This is and here's exactly how it will go. Lynn, do you want to role play really quickly?
Yes.
Okay. So Lynn, what was your goal last week?
To find daycare.
Okay, awesome. And were you able to do that?
No, I had a hard time with it. Joseph, we can't hear you.
That's because I muted myself. What prevented you from doing that?
It seemed too much it was just not physically able to be done, or you might say I didn't make the phone calls to find the right daycare.
Okay, totally understand that. Lynn, what can we do this week to make sure we get that done?
Give me something less broad than daycare, such as interview 1 spot or find one video that will entertain your child while you make phone calls, something along those lines.
Okay. So that's, again, break script. That's what this is going to look like. This is not a Lynn, God, how could you not? Because quite honestly, that's a good example. It may not have been a realistic goal, right? We may have said, hey, I'm going to go through 500 people in my database and we only got through 20, but we got 4 leads, right? So I don't like, this is just to keep going and then adjusting. And that's what we'll do each week. So absolutely come. Because that right there.
I think it's important to add back there, even like with Ed's thing and just everyone, y'all, you may have said something this week that's really important, but the actual first step is going to your calendar and blocking off an hour a day. And then and having it visibly on your calendar, this is the hour I'm going to start my 500 contacts, or this is the hour that I'm going to start calling daycare areas and find out who I can talk to that can help me. Time blocking your calendar might be the first step. So be prepared for that and don't be discouraged.
Yep. All right. Last thing, Lynn, did you have anything else? I was going to jump to the Big Rock screen just to show that, but did you have anything?
I think that's it. And when everybody emails me your stuff, I'm going to give you some good thoughts to help a little bit more.
Yeah. So just a couple quick reminders. The orientation on Monday, if you didn't go and you want to come back, that's Mondays at 2. Ignite, there's a new one that starts March 8th. So even if you've been through it and you want to go through it again, or just identify certain topics, feel free to do that. This series, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent series, as well as the Productivity Tech Talks, that's basically the breakdown of all things command each Wednesday at 2. So make sure you get those, just keep those on your calendar till you're familiar with everything. So when something comes up, if you'll have that topic covered. Number 5, this is an exciting one that some of the ALC is starting to get involved with. We've partnered with Elite Productivity Solutions, and basically every day from 8:45 to 11, there's an open Zoom link that we can all jump on, and it's an accountability to lead generate. You don't have to be live. You can mute yourself, but it's just good to just show up and see people there. There's people from North Carolina all the way up to Mooresville, all the way down to Hilton Head that join in on this. Sometimes it's 4 people, sometimes it's 20 people. Highly encourage you to go just from the accountability. And then the contracts class every Tuesday at 2, just so you can stay familiar with it.
Joseph, what time is the Elite Productivity Solutions?
8:45 to 11. And you can jump in or out at any time. And we're going to post a link to that on the Facebook page.
Yeah. And if you want to include to me, because I've been in dialogue with Monique. So if you want to include in your email to me, hey, I want to get involved with this, I'll point you in the right direction so you can deal with them directly.
Anything else?
I think this was good. Was this helpful? Was this a good start?
Awesome. I loved it.
Good.
I had a blast. All right. So next week, here's the deal. We'll send out a reminder. Bring your net income goal for the next 12 months. What you want to put in your pocket for the next 12 months. And I'll send out a quick video to walk through an exercise that'll help you determine that. So yes, Celeste.
Where are you going to do that, Joseph?
I'll do it before the end of the day and post it on. Actually, I'll probably send it out Monday.
Okay.
Yep.
And if y'all missed the orientation or want to come again, we'll see you Monday. But if not, I look forward to seeing all of you guys on Friday. I think it's important that you commit to it, because sending us your results or lack thereof and not attending, that's just a different, it's not going to be as successful for you. So try to time block this. Start with time blocking this if you're not great at that.
Celeste, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I think this was in like some initial paperwork that I received, but there was it was like a chart, and it was like how much you need to make monthly, how much like your housing and marketing and all of that is. Can you tell me where to find that?
It'll be in the book. The red book will be in there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But just understand, for next week, all you need is what you want your net income goal to be from your business. We'll show you how to break down the percentages of backing in marketing, backing in everything else.
Okay.
Oh, and hold on. What I'll do too, before we hang out of the chat or get out of the chat, I will do a copy paste of our West Ashley training calendar. That's important as well, because that's going to have Ignite. That's going to have a ton of stuff for you to go. That is like an amazing resource. So definitely go click on that and do a favorite, save it to your computer. Right next to your favorites, you know, of me, and pictures of me and your favorites. All right, I think that's
everybody.
it. We ran a little bit late, which I'm always good doing, but we will hold better to 1 to 1:30, 1:30 to 2. But this was a good start.
All right, guys, have a great weekend. Let us know if you need anything.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.